Hi, everybody. It's Dr. Alex at LifeSprout Chiropractic. We're actually going ahead and pre-recording this webinar because Fritz is feeling a little lonely for mommy and wants to see me. So we're going to go ahead and get started, and it'll be saved so you can see it anytime. And I'm going to try to, I hope everybody can see this time. We're going to go through and talking about eat, what you must know to look in the mirror and say, wow. So let's go ahead and jump into this. And I'm actually just going to double check something. There we go. It is working. All right. So in order to, the last time we did this, it didn't record right, but I'm going to hope that it does this time. So eating, here we go. The key to eating healthy is to avoid any food that has a TV commercial. How true is that? Also, any food out of a box. We're about to dive into this. So a new study from the Institute of Health Metrics and Evaluation at the University of Washington makes for a very depressing read. The top line message is that for all the rightful bad rap that tobacco smoking gets, factors associated with poor diet now kill far more people each year than lighting up a cigarette. Based on stats from 2010, nearly 680,000 people die from their dietary habits versus just over 465,000 from smoking. That's kind of depressing, right? So I think it's become increasingly obvious that we have a massive food epidemic in the world, specifically in the United States. And childhood obesity is soaring. Lifestyle diseases are taking millions of lives each year, and the statistics continue to worsen. If you look at this next slide here, this is from the CDC, the Center for Disease Control in the US, and it is the rates of obesity in 1985. And so, you know, not terrible numbers. We didn't have data on a lot of states, including Alaska, but you see, you know, we're in the 10% up to the maybe 20% in a couple states, but overall, not that bad. Now, here's 2010. And if any of you haven't seen this, there's probably an even more recent one, which I'm not expecting to look any better than this. But, you know, the majority of our population is at least 25% fall into the obesity category. And a lot of that is our kids. And so, you know, we have these grim predictions coming out. In Britain, for example, with 60% of the population expected to be overweight by 2050, compared with 28% today, and 70% of girls and 55% of boys expected to be overweight or obese in 40 years' time. That's kind of scary, right? So we go on to say that children on average only eat 2.5 portions of fruit and vegetables per day, which is half the recommended intake. And even the recommended intake, I would argue, is not enough. They also eat 50% more added sugars than the recommended maximum and 25% more saturated fat. So why are we sharing all these statistics? To scare you? Well, a lot of this, you know, our lifestyle and our choices, the things we eat, it comes down to personal responsibility. And I think a lot of people are either scared of facing the reality of the lifestyle choices that they make, or just don't realize that it's the lifestyle choices they're making that are causing some of these problems. And I actually am just coming off of a seminar this past weekend where I learned a lot about the growing rate of dementia in our society, especially in the US. And I think it's 1 in 2 85-year-olds now fall into some category of dementia, and they're finding a lot of that has to do with the eating habits and eating choices that we're making. So we're about to get into a lot of that. But this report is not focused on only the material aspects of eating well, which is looking good, but rather it's really a strategy for you to pursue in order to live with vitality, where the byproduct consists of the following. 1, abundance of energy. 2, high levels of self-esteem. 3, having that complexion that everybody talks about. I know we want that. Number 4 is positive spirit and outlook. And 5, wouldn't it be great to be the poster family of health in your community? And the last one is to be someone who looks in the mirror and says, damn, I look good. So here we go. Let's do this together. Let's get into this. And, you know, my hope and goal, we're going to go over 5 steps you can do start implementing in order to improve your eating habits and your overall health, your overall well-being. You know, it definitely helps to have a group together. So if enough of you after watching this are ready, you're ready to take the plunge. I'm on day 2 of following all these 5 steps, and you know, I wasn't doing that bad before, but I'm a little hungry, I'm not gonna lie, but there's a period of getting into it where the benefits, once you get through the rough patch, are far worth it. So, and they look something like this. I think it's time for all of us to say wow. So let's get into this and get into what we can eat, right? So here's what you need to know to look in the mirror and say wow. So strategy 1, I am actually an advocate, I'm becoming more of an advocate of the paleo diet. I know there's been out and about a lot recently, and the seminar I was in this past weekend, that's pretty much all we talked about was the paleo diet. And there's a couple of reasons for that. So for those of you who aren't familiar with it, I think most people have at least heard of it. But back in the day, the Paleolithic period, which was a long, long, long time ago, people ate primarily vegetables, fruit, nuts, roots, and meat, which varied depending on what was available at the time. And interestingly, the doctor who put on this seminar that I attended this weekend pointed out that in Alaska, we're one of the last states, I would argue probably the last state, where we still have somewhat of that hunter-gatherer mentality. We're hunting moose, we're hunting caribou, we hunt bear, we gather berries. You know, we could gather some other stuff here, and so we're really blessed to have the ability to be able to do that. So if you're not someone who really has taken on that part of the Alaskan lifestyle, I would encourage you to get started, find some friends who are doing it, and jump in. So a lot of the research that examined the types and quantities of food of our hunter-gatherer ancestors found the paleo diet essentially means lean meat, which includes ostrich and bison, oddly, and moose, organ meats, seafood, fresh fruit, and non-starchy vegetables, which, if you can imagine, is a far cry, very far cry from what we typically eat in the American diet. I think American food is usually what? A burger, fries, and like a piece of lettuce on there somewhere. So today we largely eat refined sugar, high fructose corn syrup, which is so bad, and I'll tell you why in a little while, cereal, bread, potatoes, and pasteurized milk products. And most Americans eat a much narrower selection of fruits and vegetables, roots and nuts, and in lesser quantities than our caveman ancestors. A study by researchers from the University of California had out-of-shape volunteers, so people who probably fell into that obesity category, eat a paleo diet for 2 weeks. And that time, their blood pressure levels decreased, as did their levels of cholesterol by an average of 30 points, which, as many researchers compared it to, equals the amount of a drop you would get by taking statins for 6 months. But you don't get any of the side effects of taking statins. And their levels of triglycerides also improved. So if you're wondering what you should and should not eat based on the paleo diet, here's a really basic list, and I'll give you some more references as we go through this. But so what to eat: grass-fed meats and organic grass-fed products. It's organic chicken, free range, grass-fed beef. Eat moose. Moose is about the best thing you can eat up here. Fresh salmon, great. And then lots of fresh fruits and veggies. It's in Alaska, especially in Fairbanks, we have a hard time getting organic stuff sometimes without paying an arm and a leg and your entire paycheck in order to do so. So, you know, there's things like the Clean 15 and Dirty Dozen. You can Google those, and it'll give you a list of the dirtiest fruits and vegetables with the most pesticides on them, and then the cleanest. So the clean ones, you know, you can get away with not doing organic. Always wash them, and wash them very thoroughly. Eggs are in this paleo diet, nuts and seeds. But I will say, just we have peanuts over here. Peanuts are a very, very dirty nut. It's more a legume, and most of it grows, even the organic stuff will grow a very carcinogenic fungus on it. So I just avoid peanuts, peanut butter, all that as a general rule. And then healthy oils. The best one of all these is coconut oil, and the reason is it's what we call it's fully saturated fat, so it's broken down the most easily. There's no double bonded carbons in there, and that way your body's able to burn it very easily, because it's not having to work as hard to break it down, so you actually produce more from that, and that's why those fats are good for you. So here's what not to eat. We always have to have the not list. Cereal grains, legumes, which are your beans, peanuts, dairy, refined sugar, potatoes. Oh no, sweet potatoes are actually okay depending on what paleo thing you look at, but your Yukon Golds and your red potatoes, all of that, the starch is just way too high. Processed foods, so anything that comes out of a box, and the more you cook it, the more it's processed. Salt, caveat, sea salt is okay. The grayer it is, the better. So I like Celtic sea salt. And then refined vegetable oils. And the reason, we'll just get a little bit into, I did a lot of biochem this weekend, so it's fresh in my brain, but vegetable oils, they combine two different kinds of oil and they go rancid really quickly. And so if they go rancid on your counter, or while they're sitting in the bottle, they go rancid in your body too. And the going rancid is they get oxidized, and so that creates free radicals. Free radicals are what screw up your body chemistry and eventually end up causing cancer and other diseases. So the less you have of that stuff, the better for your overall health and longevity and just feeling good. So that's that list. And then to get meal ideas, and I didn't have a slide on this, but if anyone needs any more information, I do have a printout that I can email you if you send me an email at dralex@lifesproutchiro.com. And you can take notes off of here too. But there's a woman named Danielle Walker who has a paleo blog, and then she has a couple cookbooks with tons and tons of meal ideas. I was actually going through one of them last night, and it's called Against All Grains. And for pretty much anything you can think of to eat, there's a paleo version that I think actually ends up tasting a lot better. And with the dairy too, I will say that personally I still choose to eat raw milk cheese, just because it's a good fat, and we're going to get into good fats and bad fats here in a little bit too. But some other places, if you just look up paleo, there's going to be lots of ideas for kids, for anybody, stuff you love to eat. There's the paleomom.com. I think Danielle Walker's is my favorite site, but paleogrubs.com. And they have things like chicken fingers, taco salad, primal breakfast burrito, pancakes. There's a really good paleo bread I make, a banana bread out of almond flour. So it's quite interesting and quite delicious, and quite the fats are very good once you get into eating like this. You can even have ice cream and cookies. The ones that I have listed here are off of WholeFoodSimply.com. So that's step one. We're going paleo. I'm on it. If anyone wants to join me, let's do this. Let me just grab a drink of water, and we're going to go on to step 2, which is never be hungry and never be full. And I'll tell you why in just a second. So here we go. The caveman wins. Down with the Big Macs. Strategy 2. Never be hungry and never be full. And so there's a sweet spot with this. Was saying that having snacking, having 5 to 6 small meals throughout the day was good. They've changed their tune now, because they've actually found that when you do that, your insulin levels always stay high. And so your insulin goes up when you eat, which it's supposed to, but then it's supposed to come back down. And that's what actually allows your body to burn the fat and the calories that you've just eaten. But if you keep eating, or a lot of trouble with obesity is people overeating. So if you continue to do that, it ends up, your insulin just always stays high. And so none of the calories get burned because your body's always trying to deal with the insulin being too high. So the 5 to 6 meal thing, not the best idea. You can snack, obviously, but make it a small snack. And then, if you get too hungry, you end up overeating, and it messes with your body chemistry as well. So let me just look over my notes here. So they found that eating less than 3 meals or snacks per day may increase the risk of obesity, but the risk goes up when people eat 6 or more times per day too. So what you can do is, make 3 meals for yourself and then simply break each meal in half so that now you have, well, I don't really like that idea. I'm reading a note that I wrote on here. So I'm an advocate of, at least probably somewhere between 3 meals a day. Some people do better with 2, and then having a snack as you need it, especially if your energy levels are dropping. And that's actually one of the next things we're going to talk about is when your energy levels get low. But another thing that the research is starting to come out with is fasting, short periods of fasting throughout the day. It allows your body time to rest and also digest and process the stuff that you've already eaten. So for example, something new I'm trying, and this is a very good thing to do, is not eating within 3 hours of going to bed. So if you're going to have dinner at 7 and go to bed at 10, then you don't eat in between that 7 and 10 thing, or 8 and 11 or whatever it is. So you're not snacking at night, because if you snack at night, again, your insulin levels are too high, and when your body should be resting and burning the calories you've eaten throughout the day, instead the insulin is too high, and so it's dealing with that again. So, not eating from dinner until breakfast the next morning. If you feel like you're someone who doesn't really do breakfast, you can try going until lunch, not eating from dinner until noon the next day. So this is something I'm going to personally try. I encourage other people to just experiment with it. And I know a lot of people who've done it have actually started to lose weight and start feeling better in general just from doing something like that. And so here's strategy 3. How many of you are still drinking soda? Don't raise your hand, but you know who you are. So there's really only one liquid that we should be drinking. And I'm going to read you a quote here from Dr. Joseph Mercola. If you haven't been on Dr. Mercola's website, it's a very informative and in-depth place to go. But for those of you looking to dive into all this on a deeper level, his website is mercola.com, and you spell it MERCOLA. So he says, many fail to realize how crucial an issue this is. It is my strong belief that the single most powerful intervention the majority of Americans can make for their physical health would be to stop drinking all sodas and juices and replace them with health-promoting pure water. This is such an important issue due to the fact that nearly 75% of the US is overweight, and the #1 source of calories is sugar from soda. And not just sugar, it has high fructose corn syrup. And now they've replaced it with something new, but it's actually 3 times worse than high fructose corn syrup and how your body processes it. I think Pepsi is the one who's made the shift, and it's the diet version. I lost my place. Okay, needless to say, diet sodas are even worse. There you go. Of course, water is essential for your survival. Every day, your body loses water through urine and sweat. This fluid needs to be replenished, for while you can survive for months without food, without water you wouldn't last more than a few days. If you get the fluid-water replacement issue right, then you have made one of the most important and powerful steps you can take in taking control of your health. So, your body's made of water. There's water floating around. Your body uses hydrogen and oxygen, which is what water is, H2O, to deal with many of the processes that go on in the body. And so ideally, you should be drinking at least, and I would argue even more, than half your body weight in ounces per day. So you take however much you weigh, you divide it in half, and that's how many ounces of water you should be having each day. And I hear from people a lot, I just don't like the taste, it's no good. And I would encourage a couple of things. Some people can taste differences in water, other people can't. I'm someone who I cannot drink tap water. We get our water from the Fox Spring. I know lots of people think there's lots of stuff in there. So to me, it tastes okay, so we drink it. If you have a hard time with the taste, instead of getting flavored water, because that's going to have sugar and other stuff in it, you can always add a drop or 2 of essential oil. I like spearmint or peppermint. doTERRA has a Slim and Sassy oil that it makes water, it just gives things kind of a different taste to it. It's also uplifting and gives you more energy, which is what we're going to talk about on the next step here. And, you know, so play around with it. You can actually squeeze fresh lemon in there too. That makes the water very cleansing and can help with detoxing and helpful for the liver. So there's lots of different ways you can drink water. It doesn't have to be just plain water, but definitely avoid the, you know, if you're doing the store-bought flavored water like vitamin water and that stuff, you're not really doing any better than drinking a soda. So drink water. That's it. It's time to just commit and do it. And tea is okay too, but we'll talk about that in just a second. So we'll just say that since we're talking about looking in the mirror and saying, wow, because people don't realize how many wasted calories are consumed by means of liquid, meaning soda. I think it's, the statistics I've heard recently is you lose 15 to 20 pounds just by cutting out soda, because that's how much sugar you're consuming by drinking that stuff. All right, I think I've said all I need to say about that. Moving on. There we go. We're going to caveman the soda. Get rid of it. So here we are on strategy 4, which is green stimulation. Again, another show of hands while you're sitting at home hiding from everybody. How many of you have a crash during the day and feel a need to have coffee? And give me 1 second, I'm drinking water again. See, water. Let's go. So, you know, this is the one that I might get the most backlash from you guys on, because I know we all love our coffee. Particularly, I only love coffee if it has a ton of sugar in it, which makes it as bad as soda. So fatigue is the #1 daily complaint among Americans. And if you're using coffee to combat the feelings of tiredness and low energy, it delivers a temporary jolt, which may feel like a burst of energy, but in truth, coffee only gives you the illusion of energy and is not the real thing. Over the long term, it actually depletes your B vitamin supply, which are the vitamins that actually make you feel energetic, believe it or not. And the lack of B vitamins depletes your energy, as I just said. If you struggle with fatigue and low energy on a daily basis, your body is telling you it's time to assess your health and lifestyle choices. Drinking coffee is not the answer to chronic feelings of weariness and lack of energy. And so there's some alternatives. They taste good, and if you do them long enough, you'll stop craving the coffee. And they're actually very healthy for you. And so that one of them is what's known as the green smoothie. So before I share with you some ideas for that, here's some cold hard facts about coffee. It interferes with your body's ability to use water and promotes fluid loss. So it's actually dehydrating you. So all that hard work you're doing drinking water, when you drink your coffee, you pretty much undo it all. Raises your cholesterol. We all know that's a problem. Sends your insulin levels out of control. So that's going to mess with all your chemistry, make you think you're still hungry when you're not, and then your body never comes down off of that insulin high so that it can actually burn the calories that you've been eating. Contributes to rheumatoid arthritis and stroke. It damages your blood vessel and increases your risk of heart disease. So coffee's not sounding like such a good thing anymore, right? So there's green smoothies are essentially smoothies with green stuff in them. And so the green stuff can be, there's a greens powder that I use from draxe.com that, you know, it tastes good, it has a minty flavor, and it has good energy boosting things in it, and things that are just good for your body in general, like chlorella and spirulina, wheat barley grass, and some of the B vitamins. So it gets you going without doing all that other stuff and making you just think you got going, but you really didn't. And so, you know, you can there's lots of recipes out there. The website that I like is called simplegreensmoothies.com. And again, if anyone wants a copy of the packet I put together on all this stuff, just email me, and that's dralex@lifesproutcairo.com. So on there, they have coconut peach and mango melon madness, almond butter, and jelly. That one I need to try. That would be interesting. So there you go. Step 4. So just to recap, here's what we're doing. Here's what we're taking on if you're ready. Taking on the paleo diet, So no more simple carbs or sugars is the big one with that. Potatoes, all the starchy things. We are, I forgot what step 2 was already. This is why I'm doing this, because my brain doesn't work very well. We're not being hungry and not being full. So not going too long in between meals and not overeating. We're drinking water and we're cutting out coffee. Oh my goodness, who's ready? All right. So the last step in here is be creative, have fun with this. One of the things I recommend is have everyone in your family write down the top 3 meals that they love the most. And then you Google those meals, but in front of it, you put the word paleo and just see what comes up. And you'll be amazed by some of the things that come up. You know, I was getting really inspired looking through my Danielle Walker paleo cookbook last night. And she has like 8 weeks of meal planning in there, but you can pick and choose and mix and match and do whatever you want. But, you know, there's Mexican burgers, there's ginger chicken and broccoli. She has a recipe for this really delicious, what we call cauliflower rice. So you make a rice-like thing out of cauliflower. It's great. So, you know, get excited. I started enjoying cooking again when I really do the paleo thing full on, and I'm recommitting. It's hard, you know, especially after you've had a kid, which has been my downfall. I was very, very clean and doing all this stuff all the time, and maybe even more extreme in other cases, for about 10 years. And then I got pregnant, and it all not completely came crashing down, but I've been cheating a lot more than I would like to admit. So I've recommitted. I'm getting creative in the kitchen again, doing a lot of stuff with almond flour. And the thing to realize is there's substitutes like stevia for sugar. I use coconut sugar some. I need to research some more of the biochemistry of how that's actually breaking down before I can say for sure do that. But you know, there's ways to experiment and take this on. It's definitely an overhaul, but you can do it. So here we go. We're almost done. And again, just check it out, try it on. I've also got about 25 books on paleo stuff that I can recommend to people if you want to read some more about it before you really take it on. But here's our closing motivation for today. One, it's time to say wow, right? I think we've agreed that. So we're here for you. And I want you to know that. And just to give you some motivation, here is some of the truth around nutrition. And there's lots of fad diets around and programs, and a lot of them are leading us to where our health is compromised immensely. And we will not just, I'm not going to just sit here and watch that happen. There's a lot of bad information out there. So here's some myths. Myth 1, whole wheat is a health food and an essential part of a balanced diet. I just spent an entire seminar this weekend talking about this. And the reason is they are finding through research that they're doing with patients suffering from dementia that what's causing it is eating too many grains, and that would be whole wheat. And so the way they're treating dementia in a lot of people is to eliminate whole wheat. There's a whole supplementation regimen that they go through. There's a whole bunch of other things, but the very first thing is cutting out simple carbs. And so that's why so many people are recommending the paleo diet now, because it'll not only keep you healthier, it'll help your brain function longer. Because essentially what we're eating, to not go into a whole bunch of biochemistry with you all, what we're eating ends up killing the neurons in our brain. And so either you develop heart disease or cancer or diabetes, or dementia actually outweighs all of those in what's being treated in the elderly population at this time, and it's all related to diet. So whole wheat is not an essential part of a balanced diet. Myth 2, eating fat makes you fat. So if you want to lose weight, you need to eat less fat. Okay, don't get too excited about this. Eating good fats does not make you fat. It actually makes you lose weight. And so the good fats are things that are fully saturated, like coconut oil and avocado and most of your nuts, except peanuts, because they're not really nuts, are good fats that if you eat them, like drinking organic heavy whipping cream, or just heavy cream, like a creamer, that will help you lose weight. If you don't believe me, try it for a month and just see what happens. Just cut out the sugar while you do it. Myth 3, a high protein diet increases strain on the kidneys and raises your risk of kidney disease. Simply not true. Myth 4, all calories are created equal. It doesn't matter which types of food they are coming from. This is so wrong on so many levels. The seminar I took this weekend was with a doctor named Dr. Dan Murphy, and he was telling us how for 10 years he was actually vegan, but he was what he called a bad vegan. So he, just because it didn't have animal products in it, he would eat Doritos and drink soda. And he developed a lot of health problems from doing that. So, his argument is there's a healthy way to be a vegan, but a lot of people will replace those foods or things that, just because they're processed and don't have animal products in them, they'll eat them, and it still creates a lot of health problems. So I'm not an advocate of limiting your calories. If you're really trying to lose weight, then yes, that's something that we can do. But what is important is the quality of the calories that you're eating. So if your calories are all coming from McDonald's, that's not a good thing. If your calories are all coming from organic vegetables and fruits and good meats and good fats, then that's okay. Your body's going to burn them. And the other thing is you just need to be able to burn the calories that you put in. So next week we're talking about exercise, and the following week we're talking about positive thinking and just keeping your brain mentally fit. And so we'll get into that more. But all calories are not created equal. And then myth 5 is the only people who should go gluten-free are patients with celiac disease. Also not true. And what they're finding is, while a very small percentage of the population actually has celiac disease, more than half of our population is what we call has a gluten sensitivity or is gluten intolerant. And so again, grains, not good for us. Our bodies just, and there's a reason for this actually. 50 years ago, they may have been good for us, but a lot of it has changed with how they are grown, and most of them are genetically engineered or modified because they had to figure out how to grow more crops in order to feed everyone on our planet. So going gluten-free, definitely not just for people with celiac disease. Along with that, just because something says it's gluten-free doesn't make it good for you. A lot of the gluten-free stuff that you can buy in store, like the substitutes for things, breads and crackers and all of that, you have to read the ingredient list and be really cognizant of what you're getting, because a lot of them are still very high in sugar, very high in additives, and very high in stuff that's just not good for your body. So, I don't even use most of that stuff at this point. There's a couple things, but you really want to be careful what you're getting. So here we go. We're almost done. You need to hear the truth, because there is nothing more important than your ability to live with vitality. And my goal with this is not to scare you. It's not to create more stress. And it's not to prevent you from enjoying yourself, because eating well requires work. So our goal is to help you become more aware of what you can do to look in the mirror and say, wow, without compromising anything, because eating should be fun, healthy, rewarding, and exciting. And like I said, with the whole paleo thing, there's so many options to still have dessert, to still really enjoy the food. And I'll be honest, it tastes really good. When I'm eating full-on paleo, I'm like, oh, this is amazing. Why don't I do this all the time? And so now I'm going to do it all the time. And maybe we might host a workshop or something on meal ideas, recipe. We can do a prep week for the prep work for a whole week or something. And if that'll help people, I'm totally open to doing that, because it would help me. And so, I'm a chiropractor. I focus on the spine because that protects what controls your whole body. So it protects your nervous system. Messages go out to your body and come back to the brain. And unless they have a clear path in order to do that, your body doesn't work right. And so I'm talking about this because we're finding, some of the things that break down those connections and the ability of your body to send messages and get them back is not just the state of the spine, the shape of the spine, and where you have what we call subluxation or a bone out of place. It's also the things you're doing out, the thing that causes that subluxation is the stuff you're putting in your body, the things you're doing out in the world. So that's why we're talking about eating well, thinking well, and moving well the next few weeks. So I hope this was informative and helpful for everybody. And I look forward to seeing you, but not really. But I hope you will tune in for the next 2 weeks as well. And if you have any questions, again, my email is dralex@lifesproutchiro.com. And that's LIFESPROUTCHIRO.com. So remember, let our family take care of yours, and we will see you all next time.